Welcome back to Seasons, a devotional based on the book by the same name. And today we're going to get right into it, but we're actually going to step a little bit back because the title is Getting Out of the Way. Recently, I just posted this on Facebook about a week or two ago. So if you're my Facebook friend, and if you're not, come and join me on Facebook. But if you're my Facebook friend, then you would have seen this meme that I created to go along with a quote that I actually wrote a few years ago. And it's a quote that I personally have to read quite often to remind myself that I need to walk the talk. I find it more difficult to forgive those who hurt a loved one than I find it to forgive those who hurt me. Nevertheless, I must forgive. I must step back from clannish tendencies and allow God to be their defender. And I drive that point home a little bit more in the description that I put on Facebook to go along with the meme. Beware of clannish attitudes and behaviors in your life. If someone offends or hurts a friend, we need to forgive them just as much as we are commanded to forgive those who personally hurt us. When a loved one forgives those who offends or hurts them, and we refuse to forgive that person as well, we only cause that loved one a lot more grief. And I have the tenacity of a bulldog when I find it necessary to go to war on the behalf of a loved one. Now, that tenacity is really a good character trait if you are in intercession or if you are a prayer warrior for a friend. But it is a lousy character trait in the natural to be clannish and to be overly loyal to the point that we cannot see a situation clearly. I constantly have to ask the Lord for discernment and to keep me on a short leash in this area. And there's one area where I think the Lord has been able to get through over the years, and that's in the place where somebody comes to me to complain about somebody else. And this somebody else is not a child abuser. They're not an abusive spouse, etc., etc. If that's a situation, then I would treat it a little bit differently than what I am about to say. But when a fellow believer brings a complaint about someone else to me, and I discover that they have failed to first approach that person in question, I pull out one of my absolute favorite Bible verses. And this is Jesus actually talking. You cannot trump what Jesus says. Matthew 18:15-16. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. There's way too many of us who like to skip that first step because we don't like confrontation. But just because we don't like something, it doesn't mean it's not good for us. I need to remember God is in control, and He knows what He is doing in the lives of those I love. As I intercede for those in crisis, it's easier for me to surrender my concerns about the situation. Not always completely easier, but it's easier in comparison to when I am directly involved in all the mess that's what's going on. But I need to trust that God knows best, and He will dispatch those who are best suited for the job at hand. And I must surrender my pride in thinking that I am the best person to handle all situations at all times. There are times that God calls me forward to be one of His healing agents in the situation, but there are times He calls me to stand back. Both scenarios require that I recognize His voice And both scenarios require that I give him my instant obedience and complete trust. 2 Chronicles 20:17. You will not need to fight in this battle. Stand firm, hold your position, and see the salvation of the Lord on your behalf. Do not be afraid and do not be dismayed. And so I asked the Lord to stir up that, oh, I am so tired of all the drama attitude within me whenever I am tempted to jump in the mess of what's going on in somebody else's life. Yes, I can pray for them. I can encourage them. I can help them find the resources that they might need to get out of the mess that they find themselves in. But it's not my job to try to fix them, and it's definitely not my job to do God's job. But there was a cartoon I saw as a kid, and as a kid I got the point, and that point has stayed with me forever. It showed this yappy little chihuahua who was doing everything he could do to show his opponent just how big and gnarly he was and how he was able to fight his own wars. His opponent just laughed at him. But to this little dog's surprise, all of a sudden that dog that was coming against him turned tail and ran in the other direction. Well, the cartoon camera angle shifted back, and you could see that this humongous bulldog with huge teeth and all of that was standing right behind the little chihuahua. When we try to be our own defender, or when we try to be the defender of others, it's almost like I can see God picking us up by our little dog collar and gently setting us aside and saying, hey, I got this one.